Hi everyone, and welcome to today's lecture on сравнение, comparison, and превосходная степень, the superlative. There are lots of different kinds of using the comparative or different ways in which you might use the comparative. And one of them is to say more or much better than something, or more or much more than something. So, for example, I speak Russian much better than I speak Finnish. Today is much cooler than yesterday. That kind of construction. To create that construction in Russian, you use гораздо plus the comparative of the adjective or adverb. So you can say погода в Северной Каролине гораздо теплее погоды в Мэйне. The weather in North Carolina is much warmer than the weather in Maine. Or я гораздо лучше говорю по-русски, чем по-фински. I speak Russian much better than I speak Finnish. It's true. This construction can be used with both adverbs and adjectives. So in our previous examples, we have гораздо теплее, much warmer, which is an adjective, and гораздо лучше, much better, which is technically with an adverb. But it doesn't matter with this construction. You can do it either way. Another use of the comparative is to say that something is just as much as something else. And for Russian, we use the construction такой же как or так же как. And we use такой же with adjectives and так же with adverbs. For example, we could say зима в Мэйне такая же холодная, как в России. Winter in Maine is just as cold as winter in Russia, or as in Russia. Or we could say зимой в Майне так же холодно, как в России. In the winter in Maine, it's just as cold as it is in Russia. Or он говорит по-русски так же свободно, как по-фински. Note how we have такая же холодная, long form adjective plus long form adjective, and they both match in gender, case, and number. So такая and холодная are both feminine singular in the nominative. But так же холодно and так же свободно, adverb plus adverb. The inverse of that construction is to say that something is not as something is something else. And for Russian, we use не такой как or не так как. We follow the same rule for adjectives and adverbs, so такой is used with an adjective and так with an adverb or a short form adjective. And once again, такой must match the adjective it goes with in gender, case, and number. So for example, we can say лето не такое холодное, как зима. Summer is not as cold as winter, and both такое and холодное are neuter, singular nominative because they modify лето. However, we're much more likely to say летом не так холодно, как зимой. In the summer, it's not as cold as in the winter, in which case you'd use an adverb or a short form adjective холодно, and you'd match it with так. Летом не так холодно, как зимой. And you do that anytime you have an adverb or a short form adjective. So он говорит по-русски не так свободно, как по-фински. He speaks Russian not as fluently as he speaks Finnish. We use так because we're matching it with свободно, the adverbial form. Another comparative construction is something like the more the better. And in Russian, we use чем plus the comparative followed by тем plus the comparative. For example, чем больше читаешь по-русски, тем лучше понимаешь. The more you read in Russian, the better you will understand. One of the most famous examples of this construction is from Pushkin's novel Eugene Onegin. In chapter 4, he says, чем меньше женщину мы любим, тем легче нравимся мы ей. The less we love a woman, the easier it is to make her like us. Another comparative construction is as something as possible, so as quickly as possible or whatever. And to do that in Russian is very simple. We just say как можно and then the comparative. A very common one is как можно скорее or как можно скорее, the more conversational form, which means as fast or as soon as possible. You can also say things like читайте как можно больше книг. Read as many books as you can. And note how we have больше plus the genitive. Just like any other kind of counting or quantities, if you have больше or меньше followed by a noun, it's normally going to be in the genitive. So читайте как можно больше книг. Or you could have the converse, читайте как можно меньше книг. Read as few books as possible. You don't have to have it with a noun, though. You can also say выходите из дому как можно меньше, for example. Leave the house as little as possible. Another related construction is the superlative. In English, we form it by adding est to the end of an adjective or saying something is the most or the best something. And in Russian, it's very simple. We just put самый before the adjective. Of course, just like такой, самый matches its adjective and its noun in gender, case, and number. For example, самая длинная книга, которую я читала, «Война и мир». The longest book I have read is War and Peace. There are a couple of other situations where you might form the superlative slightly differently. For example, if you have a comparative form plus всего if you're talking about a thing, or всех if you're talking about people, that means the best or most of all. For example, он лучше всех говорит по-русски. He speaks Russian better than everyone. He speaks Russian best of all. Or она больше всего любит читать. She likes to read more than anything, or most of all. Also, sometimes superlatives can be formed by adding yishi or aishi. You only see that in general in written Russian, but there is one construction where it's commonly used in spoken or casual Russian, and that's ближайшая, as in ближайшая остановка, the closest stop, ближайшая станция метро, the closest metro station. So the place where you most need to know that construction and are most likely to encounter it or use it yourself is specifically in the word ближайший, and specifically when talking about bus stops or stations.